I wanted to tell a story-ish, I guess. Today, I've been talking to a lot of prospects and clients, really, and it's just reminding me of myself in my marketing position a couple years ago. And marketing's totally changed in the last year, so this might be obvious to you guys now. If you're in marketing or sales or in any point of the revenue funnel for your business. But I remember when marketing, like the only thing that we knew really worked for SMBs, small, medium-sized businesses in the B2B world was content marketing. And it was frustrating, right? Because, or not even frustrating, but very uncertain, because you're convincing your team that putting all of these resources into content marketing is going to pay off. And you don't see it immediately. And you don't realize how much work it is to even write a blog post, let alone like put together a downloadable resource that everyone agrees the copywriting is great, the messaging is correct, and the graphic design is correct, and then the email campaign and the landing page and maybe the advertisements. And so you put so much time and so much resources into hoping that this content marketing strategy is going to work. And then you push it out there and it gets crickets. So maybe you're like, okay, now I need advertisements. And you just start seeing the money fly away without real return. Like maybe you get some leads, but they might have just said they were just researching, or it's not the right time, not the right budget, blah, 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 right? And on the sales side of the funnel, you're being judged on how well you can convert these leads that are being handed off for marketing from this content production. And you're like, geez, I don't know these people. They're pretty much cold and they're qualified leads, but I'm getting all these objections, if I can even talk to them, which is a big if. And one of the things that we put together for our clients are live messaging workshops where we interact as a team and we create the foundational messaging elements for your brand that kind of build on each other and get everyone's input. And it's just a much less stressful way of doing messaging workshop, which can be really tedious. And I got off the track here. What was I talking about? Oh, so you have all these messages that you're trying to sell, and then the sales team is trying to convert it. And then you add in things like, oh, we need to market this for a partner, or co-market this, or do a webinar on someone else's page. And all the messaging just gets really messy and very like rushed. Like, we're going to post that we're going to be at an event somewhere, but I don't know if anyone really cares, and they probably don't unless they know the person speaking, and then you might get like a like or see you there, maybe. So you're doing all this stuff and you're trying to keep up with all the new marketing technologies like chat boxes and AI and all this stuff, and it's just overwhelming. And then you don't get the conversions. You make a funnel and you don't get the conversions, and that's scary. So you're like, what's working, what's not? I don't know. And now that I've been through the consulting phase of this and actually been able to figure it out on my own and test things much more rapidly without a group, there's just some awesome privileges of working for yourself that gets tied down when you're in a group, which is fine. And that's why I'm in consulting, so I can tell the groups, you know, what to do. But when you're in that position, it's really scary. And maybe not at first because you're pretty sure it's going to work. But when it starts not working, then you're like, okay, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. And you're just trying everything to see if it works. So what I've realized over the last year or so is there's two pieces to it, right? There's the conversion piece and there's the traffic piece. And the traffic piece right now is so easy, much easier than the content marketing days, right? Because you basically click on a button in a social channel and their business model is to get you those leads and to get you really targeted leads and leads that their algorithms will say, this person is likely to click on something and download it and buy from you, and we're going to send ads to that person. So it's like, that should get your heart rate up. It gets my heart rate up because it gets me really excited because that's like awesome for businesses. And there's stuff you got to figure out on that end, like how to optimize your landing pages, how to optimize your ads, and that's stuff that we teach. But specifically for the conversion part, that's harder to teach, right? Because that's all about persuasion and sales and stuff in the B2B market we haven't really been focusing on, right? We've been focusing on benefits and features and comparison and how to answer questions that come up with SEO, but we're not focused on how to persuade and convert someone who's not even searching for a solution. Or a lot of times in our industry, it's a solution that no one's even never heard of before, and they don't even know that there's a thing, that they don't really know what to call. So you're not searching for it. It's a whole different ballgame. So you probably heard like the term B to H or H to H, human to human or business to human, which is trying to persuade brands to persuade in a human way versus the whole features and benefits and the classic B2B way. But what does that mean? You might have heard things talking about like marketing psychology a little bit and how your brain makes a sale. And if you're in sales, you might have heard like the lizard brain, speaking to the caveman, thinking fast, thinking slow. If you don't know those terms, like it's okay, but basically how your brain works in sales and marketing is you think you're making decisions rationally, but you're really making decisions semi-emotionally, but based on associations and assumptions in your subconscious, right? So if you're marketing based on features and benefits, unless someone is literally like, I need this solution, I know I need it, I'm in the market for it, and I'm comparing vendors, and you're gonna win on a commodity race because you have X feature, that's very rare. And that's maybe 10% of your whole possible audience that you can convert. That's not what you want to be doing, right? So how do you create messaging? And by messaging, I mean like every single little piece in your marketing funnel and your marketing assets, whether it's a press release, whether it's a social media post, whether it's a contributed article, whether it's a white paper, whether it's a video of someone talking, whether it's one of your sales leaders speaking at a conference, like everything has messaging in it, copywriting, whether it's written or not, right? And just about literally everything in marketing has something in it. And now that's just like exploding because we have so many different channels now, right? We have Messenger, we have different social channels, we have webinars, just so many different vehicles to carry these messages on, right? And you kind of have to figure those all out. But without the fundamentals there, whatever you say, whatever you communicate on those channels isn't going to sell your prospect. And that's the job of marketing, right? And nowadays, the job of marketing is even more because we have to convince those people to purchase something before we hand them off to sales, or that's how it should work. And for sales, it can get really frustrating. So I'd encourage you to either invest the time in attending our upcoming webinar, or attending our live workshops, or sending someone from your marketing team there, because this will help you too. And it will, you can use all of these tactics. I don't know if they're tactics, they're just ways of talking and communicating, like the pronouns you use, the way you are authentic with someone. All these different things are so much a piece of the whole pipeline. Like that line is really blurred between sales and marketing now. But the difference, I mean, people will say there's not a difference between business to business and business to consumer. But one of the big differences is once you hand off to sales in business to business, you still have a huge job, right? Because it's usually a technical sale, it's usually complex, it usually involves a lot of decision makers. So hopefully marketing's really warmed them up to the sales part, and now they know they want this solution, or at least one person, if not more, if you're doing it right, more. People want the solution, right? And your job is more to go through all the details, negotiate, and close the deal. It shouldn't be to cold call. And that's what's happening right now. So this webinar and the workshop after, the webinar is free, by the way, is really to help that whole pipeline. So both marketing and sales, because everyone's getting frustrated right now, right? So lost track of my thoughts here. So anyways, so now B2B marketing really has to learn the sales and marketing psychology of communicating to your prospect. And again, there's a lot of different ways to do this. The other piece of it is communicating authentically and actually putting some faces in front of your brand and communicating in a way that, again, is not just features and benefits, it's actually connecting them to you. Now, on top of all of that, and I talked about how the marketing platforms and ways to communicate are just like exploding, there's a different piece of it. And one of it is one of the pieces that help you make a sale is repetition. Because again, the subconscious brain, they've proved this with studies, and this is a very foundational one that was proven years ago, is that repetition and familiarity associates your brain with trust and with more willingness to purchase from you. So you'll see in ads, like I'm sure you've seen the Captain Morgan ads on television where they just keep going, Captain, Captain, and someone comes in and then responds and says, Captain, or the, what's the other one that repeats a lot? It's the deodorant. Old Spice, maybe? I don't know. But if you pay attention to ads, you'll notice that they keep repeating their brand name a lot. And there's a foundational reason for that, because that familiarity, if you are looking at a line of products and you're like, I recognize Tide, you're more likely to buy Tide. And that's the same thing with B2B brands, except they're not in your face as much. Like there's so much in your news feed, there's so much in your email. It's really hard to reach a person just once. But now you need to reach them on multiple platforms and repeat the same type of messaging, the same story. I'm sure you've heard brand story a lot, and that's why this is so important, is to keep repeating that with consistency on top of all your platforms. So that's really a true collaboration among sales, your executive leaders, your marketing team, and just making that crystal clear and making sure that your brand story is a really foundational one that works. And you can do that nowadays through testing, which not a lot of people are doing for some reason. It's so cheap, but you can do that now. And so you know that your messaging and your brand story really connects to your prospects and your different personas. And guarantee that with the ROI, so that when you push that through every piece of messaging, you know you're getting something from it, and it's gaining that memory in your prospect's mind. This person does this, and attaches you to them, right? So there's a whole bunch of really exciting things that you can do, and it really gets me excited, and I would love to share that with you. So again, we're doing an upcoming webinar next week, next Wednesday. If you want the link, just comment below and I will send it to you. And we're also thinking of doing a partnership marketing one. That's basically the same thing, but how to kind of layer those messages on top of each other the following week. So in the comments, just write, I'm interested in the partner marketing one, and kind of tally it up and see if we can get a webinar together for that too. And I'll paste the links in. And yeah, so I hope that was kind of helpful rethinking content marketing. I want to catch you before you go down the pipeline of creating a funnel and not working, or just, pushing and pushing and pushing the content. And I'm not saying that all of that work is not good. There's a lot you can gain from it. It builds up SEO gradually. So over a couple of years or even months, you can see trickles from that. If you're really lucky, you can see big trickles. But there's just so much more you can do now. And really optimizing that message every step of the way. So we're going to pack in a ton of value, as much as value as we can, in that 1-hour webinar next week. And by value, I mean just like basically going through what we do on our paid workshops, taking some really core pieces out of it. And we are going to pitch our live virtual workshop, which we use. It's kind of like a focus group. So you get an e-course and different companies there that are giving you kind of like a live focus group feedback as you iterate on your own messaging. So that's really cool, but I'll talk about that maybe in like the last 10 minutes of the webinar. You won't be sitting through a sales pitch. But again, comment if you're interested. I'll zap you the link. So, thanks.